The hazmat section of the Firehouse report is located under additional reports. This is going to be for any type of incident that the hazmat team responds to. You have different codes under the basic, under incident type, 4 different types of hazmat responses: radioactive, chemical, combustible, flammable, leaks. All these are going to probably need some type of hazmat report filled out for them. Under the properties involvement, hazardous materials release, you can click on one of these, and then also you'll have to go to additional reports under hazmat. When you click on the hazmat tab, it brings up this hazmat report. The materials or the chemical names have to be listed here in this first section. You'll go to add and have a chemical lookup, as simple as diesel. If I spell it right. Diesel fuel as a leak. You can put in here the container that it was spilled from. Mobile vehicle fuel tank, associated piping, whatever it might be. The capacity of that fuel tank, usually they're about 200 gallons. The amount released, if we lost 150 gallons, and the physical state that it was released, liquid. Released into what? The ground, air, water, whatever it might be. Typically the ground. Once that's filled out, you hit save and close. It adds it to the materials list. If you have multiple chemicals that are being spilled, be sure to list all of them. Your scene, you go through this and fill out everything that is appropriate. Outside of a structure, urban, suburban, rural, affected area, guesstimate, and you have different measurements amounts. So blocks, square miles, square feet. We'll say 1 block. We did no evacuations, so no evacuations. Be sure to fill out the hazmat actions taken. Go in here and we remove hazard and hazardous materials, confinement. Again, this can be the plus or the plus button if you have multiple things you did. Crowd control, and investigate it. It adds multiple things at once. Fire explosion, which was first, cause of the release. If it's undetermined, then obviously put undetermined after investigation. Containment failure. Factors contributing to the release. This can be anything from the weather to equipment used for purpose not intended, collision, if an accident happened that caused the accident, collision overturned, factors affecting the mitigation. If there was a reason why we couldn't get to it, hazmat team was on something else, maybe. Whatever it might be here. Maybe there was a storm going on at the same time, we couldn't get to it. Whatever those cases may be sure to fill them out. Equipment, if it's involving an accident or something like that, be sure to put the DOT number and license plate number of the truck that was carrying it. If none, click none. If there's no casualties, click none. And disposition, this is where we're either going to release it to a private agency like a cleanup company, or turn it back over to the property owners, whatever the case may be. Typically we release it to a private agency. The narrative, the hazmat team needs to come in here and fill out a narrative. Typically, the hazmat team is going to fill out most of this information because they're going to have the information to fill this out. The company officer probably would not. So the hazmat team needs to go in there and fill this out. Under the narrative section, the company officer of the hazmat team will go in and who, what, when, where, why, all those things answered in this narrative of what happened, where it happened, what they did to fix it, so on and so forth. Be sure to add in your list of materials that you used in this narrative so that that can be printed off and sent to the proper authorities. Also, the hazmat team will need to go into the other section and attach your IAP. At this point, for a hazmat call, the hazmat team has an IAP form that they have to fill out. Company officers on all apparatuses have this IAP and they can start it. Typically, the hazmat team comes in and finishes it. At that point, they need to scan this in at the end of the call and attach it to this record right here. Also in the narrative section, you'll want to put your number that you get from TEMA in here so that for tracking purposes that we have all this information. Once all that is done, you can click save and that report will be filled out. You will also have in the folder for this hazmat module the section over hazardous materials module, NEFRs. It goes step by step of what needs to be filled out, how to fill it out. Again, it's just a refresher on if you forget how to do something or looking for something. This will go through this and give you some insight on what needs to be added when and where. So this will also be in the folder for the hazmat section. So you can refer back to that.